There is no greater pain than being disrespected in your own home. You can endure betrayal from a stranger, but when the humiliation comes from the mouth of someone who once supported you, it pierces your soul. That's exactly what happened when my son-in-law, in front of the entire family, had the nerve to call me useless. It feels like, in an instant, all the years of sacrifice, education, and support were erased, as if they had no value. But there's a truth many people forget. No one can steal your dignity once it's recorded in your history. The respect we build throughout life doesn't depend on the arrogance of others, but on the choices we make, the values we cultivate, and even the papers we keep hidden in a safe. It was precisely there that I found the key to my liberation. And the most curious thing, what seemed like the end turned into the beginning of a silent revenge. In court, I didn't need to shout or retaliate with insults. I just had to show the truth. And when the truth came out, the silence wasn't mine, it was his. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to turn the tables on someone who tried to silence you? Today, I'll show you exactly how it happened. I remember that night well. Dinner, which was supposed to be a moment of family bonding, turned into a scene of betrayal and humiliation. Robert, the son-in-law, lost control of his own mouth and hurled the cruelest words at Dorothy. "You're useless, a dead weight in this house." The silence that followed was more deafening than thunder. At times like these, emotion doesn't scream, it festers in silence, and it is in this silence that dignity is tested. What hurts most isn't just the words themselves, but the fact that they come from someone who has been helped so many times. Have you ever been there? Helping someone, giving up comfort, lending money, offering a shoulder to cry on, and, in the end, being treated like a nuisance? It's like watering a plant for years and being told it never made a difference. This is the hardest wound, not the lack of gratitude, but the profound disrespect within family relationships. I always say, betrayal from a stranger is bearable, but betrayal from a relative leaves scars that even time cannot easily erase. Dorothy felt her heart burn, as if every shred of respect she had built in life was reduced to dust by a merciless sentence. But you see, when someone tries to humiliate us, it often reveals more about their own insecurity than our worth. Robert was exposed, but he still didn't understand. This scene teaches us something important. Never underestimate the power of words. They can build a person up or destroy them in seconds. It's like a stone thrown into a lake. The ripples spread far beyond the point of impact. An encouraging word can change a child's upbringing, while a dismissive phrase can shatter entire family relationships. How many stories do you know that began with a curse word and ended in separations, disputed inheritances, or silences lasting decades? And Dorothy, at that table, didn't just hear the sentence. She felt the empty gaze of her own daughter, Linda. Her silence was as loud as her husband's insult. Sometimes, the worst pain comes not from direct offense, but from the absence of defense from the one we most expected. That's when emotion mixes with the feeling of abandonment. I often say, indifference can be even crueler than the offense. When a family fails to respect others, the entire foundation of dignity built over the years is shaken. And the saddest thing is to see that many, like Dorothy, sacrificed years of work, health, and even dreams so that their children and grandchildren could have a better future. And yet, they receive only humiliation in return. It's not a question of money, but of values, of education, something that should be non-negotiable within family relationships. At that moment, Dorothy realized something deeper was happening. It wasn't just a poorly prepared dinner, but a reflection of what had been brewing in the silence of the house. And it was Linda's distant gaze that made it clear. Her daughter wasn't by her mother's side. And when even the family remains silent in the face of injustice, it's a sign that a greater chasm is about to open. The next day, Dorothy woke up hoping it had all been just a misunderstanding. After all, we always believe that family love speaks louder than any momentary betrayal. But when she sought comfort from her daughter, she received only a cold whisper, "Mom, maybe it'd be best if you didn't come here for a while." It's hard to explain the pain of that moment. It's like knocking on your own front door and realizing you're no longer welcome. This scene isn't uncommon. Many fathers and mothers experience this. They dedicate their entire lives to their children, providing education, food, sleepless nights, and one day they discover that their own family's loyalty can be bought by silence. The humiliation isn't just in the spoken words, but in the restrained gesture, the averted look, the hug that never came. It's as if their entire life were summed up in a single sentence: "We don't need you anymore." Dorothy returned home feeling a weight on her shoulders. When a family remains silent in the face of injustice, loneliness seems to scream. And in this silent scream, every corner of the house seems to recall moments of joy that will never return. How many times have you entered a place and felt absence more present than any object? This is the kind of emotion that cannot be measured in words. It was in this emptiness that Dorothy remembered the old safe stored in the basement. There were mementos from another time, yellowed papers, memories of when everything was built with hope and sweat. How many families, amidst their pain, forget that the past also holds secrets capable of changing the present? Often, freedom from humiliation is hidden precisely where no one looks, in the records that tell our true story. This gesture of opening the safe is a powerful metaphor. How many times have you saved memories, letters, documents, or even photos that seemed unimportant, but at the right moment revealed their hidden value? It's like life telling us, nothing is in vain. Even what seemed forgotten can be an instrument of just revenge and the restoration of dignity. While Linda chose silence, Dorothy rediscovered her own voice. The safe wasn't just a physical place, but a symbol of the strength that still remained within her. And when someone rejects us, we have two choices: accept our victimhood or reclaim what restores our respect. It was there, in the basement, that Dorothy began writing a new page of liberation, and inside that safe, among dusty mementos and forgotten contracts, Dorothy found something that would completely change the game, something Robert never imagined still existed. When Dorothy opened those papers, she didn't expect to find anything but worthless mementos. But there, among ancient deeds and dusty records, was a signed contract, her share in the business she'd helped build with Robert. Suddenly, the betrayal that had consumed her gave way to a glimmer of hope. The humiliation she'd suffered in the dining room might finally find its quiet revenge. This is an interesting point. Often, even the oppressors themselves forget that life is made of traces. Every signature, every receipt, every testimony is a piece of preserved dignity. Dorothy discovered she wasn't helpless. She had proof that she wasn't just a useless old woman, but a legitimate partner, someone who carried not only the memory, but also the foundation of the family business. It's curious how, when emotions overwhelm us, we forget the power of documents, records, and memories. It's like saving seeds in a jar and forgetting about them. One day, when you open it, you realize they're still there, ready to bear fruit. Have you ever thought about this? Perhaps your home also has a forgotten safe, an old folder, a stored contract, even a letter that can rescue your story. Dorothy took a deep breath. It wasn't just about money, but about respect. The dignity Robert had tried to erase was etched in permanent ink, her signature side by side with his. And when it comes to family relationships, nothing hurts an arrogant person more than realizing that the person they tried to humiliate actually has rights and a voice. The betrayal, at that moment, began to unravel in the face of the truth. With her heart racing, Dorothy didn't hesitate. She grabbed the contract and took it to the lawyer, Mr. Thompson, who had known her for decades. This is another important point. When life seems to be overwhelming us, having someone you trust, knowledgeable, and educated can be the key to turning the tide. Dorothy knew she couldn't face this battle alone. Seeking support and guidance is always an act of liberation. Mr. Thompson, experienced, read every line and confirmed Dorothy had solid, legal, and indisputable rights to part of the company. What had previously seemed like a gratuitous insult now turned into a legal battle Robert never imagined he'd face. It's like the saying goes, those who try to extinguish someone's flame forget that the ember can reignite with much greater power. And it was at that moment, inside the lawyer's office, that Dorothy realized the fight was just beginning. The weight of the humiliation still stung, but now she had a powerful weapon in her hands, and what had begun as an insult at dinner was turning into a battle that could bring Robert down once and for all. When I left Mr. Thompson's office, I felt a mixture of emotion and responsibility. It wasn't enough to have proof. I had to act intelligently. The betrayal I suffered couldn't be avenged with shouting, but with strategy. So I began gathering every detail, messages that demonstrated the disrespect, testimonies from neighbors who witnessed the humiliation, and even transfer, records that revealed how much I had already helped. Dignity isn't restored through improvisation, but through silent preparation. While Robert spread the word throughout the city that nothing could harm him, I patiently organized my defense. It's curious how those who live in arrogance believe themselves to be untouchable. Have you noticed that? People like that mistake silence for weakness and humility for submission. But silence, when charged with purpose, turns into sweet revenge, and each piece of evidence I kept was a solid foundation for rebuilding the respect he tried to destroy. I spent weeks like this, silently observing, taking notes, preparing. It was a tough but liberating time. This is where many fail. They prefer to explode in the heat of emotion rather than wait for the right moment. I learned that true revenge isn't noisy. It arrives with the calm of an inevitable storm. And one cold morning, when the bailiff knocked on Robert's door with the summons in hand, color drained from his face. For the first time, the silence wasn't mine. It was his. On the day of the trial, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. It wasn't just me against Robert. It was dignity against humiliation. He arrived with the same arrogant air as always, certain that his words could crush me once again. He tried to repeat to the judge that I was useless, as if that word had the power to erase my history. But when Mr. Thompson presented the original documents, silence fell over the courtroom. Each signature, each piece of evidence, each record dismantled the theater Robert had created. There stood not just a white-haired woman, but the woman who helped build that business, the mother who provided financial support, the grandmother who sacrificed to sustain entire family relationships, and the judge, with a firm gaze, demanded that Robert answer. For the first time, he had no argument. His silence was louder than all the insults hurled so far. The emotion in that moment was indescribable. It wasn't bitter revenge, but liberation. The weight I'd carried since dinner dissolved at the sound of the judge's gavel. I saw tears in the eyes of Linda, my daughter, who could barely look at me. Sometimes, life uses justice to teach lessons that not even time can. And in that courtroom, the message was clear. Respect cannot be stripped away. Dignity cannot be denied. And this is what life teaches us. No betrayal can erase a path built on respect, dignity, and education. When they try to humiliate us, we have two choices: accept the label they give us or transform pain into strength. Dorothy chose the latter. And you, what would you do in her place? Would you remain silent or seek your own liberation? Think about your family relationships. How many times have you swallowed harsh words, believing there was no way out? How many times have you let the arrogance of others diminish the value of your story? Justice may not come immediately, but when you stand up with evidence, courage, and values, even the most arrogant are forced to silence themselves. So I ask you, what legacy are you building? Will you leave behind only possessions and fleeting memories? Or will you leave a legacy of respect that no one can challenge? Change begins now, in how you react to humiliation, in how you transform each blow into a learning experience, and each tear into fuel for victory. If this story touched you, it's because deep down there's something in your life that's crying out for transformation. Don't ignore this call. Use it to empower yourself, to seek your liberation, and to never again accept less than the respect you deserve. And if you want to continue learning how to transform pain into victory, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, each video is a new opportunity to turn the tide in your own story. After all, those who carry dignity never end up defeated, only stronger.